Jaxson Dart had a nice debut for the New York Giants. He's in his, we'll call it a battle with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson got the start. Jaxson Dart came in second. Jameis Winston came in third as the inspirational QB3. But Jaxson Dart finishes 12 of 19 for a $159 and a touchdown. Beautiful 29-yard touchdown pass to Lil Jordan Humphrey as the highlight of the outing.
Yes, that was a very nice play. As we already mentioned earlier, he did have one play that could have been picked off that was a little bit iffy. Overall, I thought he played pretty well. The interesting thing there was, we got an idea of, look, I think this depth chart is now fairly static for the moment. Russell Wilson, QB1. Jaxson Dart looks like he's going to be QB2. And then Jameis Winston is the third guy. So Dart is gunning for that primary backup role there. And then, with Russell Wilson at this point in his career, who knows if he's going to play his way to the bench at some point during the season, and Dart becomes the guy that comes in.
One thing I want to reiterate over and over again during the preseason, as much as a one-game sample size is small, obviously the preseason sample size is even smaller. It's a half or it's a quarter or whatever. But the stat line matters even less. And the
a lot of yards after the catch for Jaxson Dart.
Yeah, and like the grades, I don't care about any of that stuff. Even when I was at a company that put out grades, I didn't care about the grades. What I'm looking for, and we'll get to this later when we talk about the rookies, I'm looking for the things that we think are going to translate at the NFL level, and then the impact that they might have. So from a what did we see on film perspective from Jaxson Dart, the touchdown pass was great because he was getting popped. He was getting hit, and that was
really nice play.
That was reminiscent of his best throws at Ole Miss, right? When I'm watching his tape, I'm like, he's all right, and then his best plays, it's like, man, he is fearless. He's getting hit, and a lot of his best plays are when he's getting smacked in the mouth, and he makes the play. Now he's got some bad plays when he gets smacked in the mouth too, which I always reference. Those are my Nick Foles, Joe Flacco-y type of plays, where there's some volatility to it, but there's a fearlessness that sometimes ends up in this great touchdown, right? There's a fearlessness there that ends up in, I think, some volatility, but the high-end plays. So far, we're seeing the high-end plays. But I thought his pocket movement was very good, too. He stepped up, hit a really nice pass on a 2nd and 15, had a really nice scramble in there, too. I didn't think he was a great athlete in college. I might rethink that a little bit. I thought he moved pretty well. My description of him was a good scrambler. I thought he had a good feel for scrambling, but I didn't think he was that athletic as far as pocket athleticism goes. That was good the other day. I thought his pocket athleticism was maybe better than I gave him credit for coming out. So it's still early, but traits-wise, I was impressed with what Jaxson Dart brought to the table. And then I just want to mention stat-wise, a couple screens and that little pass in the flat that went for 28 or 30. That inflated the stat line a little bit, but I think it overall matches up with good performance by Jaxson Dart. Hey guys, real quick, only 40% of our viewers are actually subscribed, so let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and now let's get back to the action.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few people out there, tweeting cut-ups of various players and stuff. There's a guy called Nick Pentikoff who also has a YouTube account that does this kind of thing as well. He's got a cut-up. You can go and just watch every play of, Cam Ward, every play of Jaxson Dart or whatever. TV copy, but still, it's a nice little, almost like a highlight thing. Because the NFL's YouTube, for some reason, has stopped doing this. They used to do it every preseason. Anyway, even if you just run through a video like that, you immediately start to see, there's a lot of yards after the catch in this from Jaxson Dart, which is not, look, it's part of the NFL. It's not like it's a negative necessarily, but it does mean that you immediately,
it's a call to action to not look at the stat line and compare stat lines and say, this is better than that because of these 5 numbers. That's
exactly. All. If you're looking at the box score and are like, 12 for 19 or whatever it is, like looking at his 150 something yards, 12 for 19, and be like, that's really impressive. Yeah, but quite a lot of that was done after the catch on stuff that wasn't necessarily him working. I think we can say this now, PFF grades are not nimble enough to deal with preseason sample sizes. They're not designed for that.
I probably said it on that show at the time because we had to say, why is this guy a 79? Who
exactly.
cares?
So look, the larger the sample size you're dealing with, the better the PFF grade is. Preseason, it just can't handle a guy playing 17 snaps because one play is going to swing the 0 to 100 number by 10, 20, 30 grading points, depending on what the play is. So it's less important than ever when you're looking at these things. Focus on traits, as you said, focus on the things that you wanted to see for a guy.
Yeah.
Focus on the context. Who's he doing it with? Who's he doing it against? those are the things to look at for preseason, not, the PFF grade and was it 80 as opposed to 70 or 60.
So I thought it was a good debut for Jaxson Dart.
Yeah.
And look, we'll talk a little bit Abdul Carter later on. The Giants are going to be a fascinating team because as when we rave about Abdul Carter later, if the defensive line is as disruptive as they can be, they're going to be in a lot of games. And I think the offense, look, I still don't love the offensive line, and I think Malik Neighbors is going to be dominant, but are there enough dependable weapons next to him? But they could be feisty, is what I'm saying. They could be feisty. And I think it'll be Russ early on, but they have this brutal schedule, and the whole time, even if they are good and feisty, they might not show up in wins, and then the pressure's going to be on to go get Jaxson Dart and get him in there. But I think this day one kind of reminded me of J.J. McCarthy's debut last year. I think J.J.'s was a little bit better. I think there was more big plays from J.J. McCarthy, like one or two head scratchers. And, I think Dart, overall, it was impressive. And it's like, all right, maybe we'll see him earlier than I had anticipated based off of this. But I thought the short area accuracy was a little scattershot. He showed the touch throw. I described him as the best touch thrower in the draft. I think we saw one of those. So like a lot of the quarterbacks, many of the same things that we saw on film last year, but certainly more positive than negative for Jaxson Dart as well.
Yeah. I mean, the Giants are another team, a bit like the Saints, where your big question heading into the season is, will the offensive line be bad enough to undermine everything else? Like they've got some weapons, Malik Neighbors, Tyrone Tracy had some flashes in this game as well. Scadaboo's hurt, but he's to come in as well. Like they've got some playmakers to work with, and regardless of whether it's Russ or Jaxson Dart, the question is going to be like, will that line be bad enough that whoever it is under pressure so much that it's going to be a problem? Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
Check the Mic is live every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit this subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.
The all-knowing algorithm is convinced that you'll like these videos as well, and frankly, who are we to argue?